Welcome everybody to a look at the third and final film in the Laurence Olivier's Shakespeare Trilogy, which has been released by Imprint Films. So the third and final film is 1955's Richard III. So this is a drama, clocking in 159 minutes long, so it's comfortably the longest of the three films that we've been looking at. And of course, not only directed by, but also starring Laurence Olivier. But it also stars Cedric Hardwicke, who I've seen in 14 other films, with the likes of Suspicion, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, The Invisible Man Returns, The Ghost of Frankenstein, and The War of the Worlds from 1953 being my favourites from him. We've also got supporting cast members like Michael Gough, Stanley Baker, and John Laurie. So, having helped his brother, King Edward IV, take the throne of England, the jealous hunchback Richard, who is the Duke of Gloucestershire, plots to seize power for himself, masterfully deceiving and plotting against nearly everyone in the royal court, including his eventual wife Lady Anne and his brother George, who is Duke of Clarence. Richard orchestrates a bloody rise to power before finding all his gains jeopardized by those he has betrayed. So, with the return of the Technicolor format, which does look great, admittedly, we also have the return of the more impenetrable dialogue that was so prevalent in Henry V, which isn't helped by the lack of visual storytelling in comparison to Hamlet. That said, the cast is once again excellent. It is generally engaging, the cinematography is solid, although not quite as inventive as Hamlet. The score is decent, and the end battle scene is certainly an improvement over that which was in Henry V, while it's also got a pretty satisfying conclusion as well. So, yeah, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5, which is obviously slightly down on what I gave Hamlet, but it's even Stevens with Henry V, although I would say on the whole I prefer it slightly more to that one. But yeah, it's just the dialogue that ultimately, once again, hampers this film. If the dialogue was, I'm not saying it had to be inauthentic. It could be authentic to a certain degree, but certain parts, especially when it's really rather quite fast-paced dialogue that is just coming up at you one after another, I would have preferred it to have been a little bit more clear cut. But that said, the 1080p high definition presentation of this from a 4K restoration by the Film Foundation and Janus Films in association with the BFI National Archive, ITV Studios Global Entertainment Limited, the Museum of Modern Art, and Romulus Films does look really, really good. Also sounds great as well. So, yeah, as far as the picture quality and the sound quality goes, it really is excellent. Then we've also got The Man Who Couldn't Settle, film academic Adrian Smith on Alexander Corder, video essay from 2025. He had an uncredited production role on this film, I believe. And then we've got A Kingdom for a Stage, interview with author Guy Adams on Sir Laurence Olivier from 2025. Then we've got Helping Otto, interview with First Assistant Director Jerry O'Hara. Then we've got original intermission cards, original theatrical trailer, TV promotion, behind the scenes gallery, portrait gallery, production gallery, promotion gallery, and the trial of Richard III. So, yeah, whole heap of extras there. I think I might well be right in saying that's the most of out of any of the three. Yeah, comfortably the most out of the three. Henry V had 3 extras, and Hamlet had 5. Whereas this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now, granted, a lot of those are just galleries, so even though it's interesting that they've been able to, keep a hold of those archival galleries, it's at the end of the day nothing really that's going to be telling you much outside of a few interesting tidbits here and there, but it is still nonetheless a bunch of extras regardless. So, yeah, in terms of my favourites, least favourites to favourites, Henry V is in third, Richard III is in second, and comfortably in first, Hamlet. Purely just because of the visual storytelling, which makes that so much more of an interesting film to watch. Because the dialogue is still somewhat impenetrable, but it's because of the visual storytelling that you're also able to get a lot from what you're seeing, not just what you're hearing. So, yeah, but on the whole, a decent enough box set. I did take a gamble on this because I am a fan of Laurence Olivier's stuff in other works in terms of directorial efforts. No, not directorial efforts. Sorry, obviously he only I think directed one more film out of these three. just his acting roles I've been generally impressed by over the course of several years. So yeah, I did want to see what he could do in terms of the director's chair. He is fine in that role, but he is a much better actor than a director, as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, but at the end of the day, he was working within the confines of Shakespeare's plays, including the dialogue. So I don't think he could really have done much more with what we've seen already. So yeah, on the whole, fine director, but a much better actor. And obviously, he would go on to even more acting roles after this one, which are really rather quite great. So, yeah, I would recommend these. Hamlet is the one I'd recommend out of the three the most, especially if you're looking to try and get into these kind of films first and foremost. That is probably the easiest of this three to get into. But obviously, Shakespeare's plays have been made into films countless times. You'll probably find several of these done by other directors and such from more recent decades. So yeah, whether or not they're any better or more penetrable in terms of the dialogue, I don't know. I might well not bother with any more of those, to be honest. But on the whole, there are things to get from each of these three films, but they're not quite as impressive as I hoped that they would have been. But still, I am glad that I took the chance, as yeah, I didn't hate my time with them, and yeah, at least when it comes to Hamlet, there was a great deal of visual storytelling to that I really, really enjoyed. So yeah, that alone made it worth the purchase of this effort. So yeah, but nonetheless, thank you for watching. If you have seen Richard III, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.